So really what I'm trying to teach you isn't about notes, it's not about voicings, it's not really about rhythms, it's about the essential methodology.
Solo piano is one of the hardest categories to tackle and play well at jazz. In this particular podcast lesson video, I'm going to teach you the 3 secrets to playing slow swing solo piano. They're absolute game changer for your performance and playing. My name is Brendan Lowe, creator and founder of Jazz Piano School. Don't forget to go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all the amazing free education we have available there. And if you're looking to take some next steps, we do have a membership, live programs, and lots of different courses to take advantage of. Now, Black Friday is around the corner. If you're looking to take advantage of our upcoming offers, go to jazzpianoschool.com/email list and get on our email list and hear all about that. Plus, if you want to follow me on Instagram, check out my new handle at Brendan Lowe Music on Instagram to check out all my performances, gigs, and shows that I do outside of Jazz Piano School. BRENDEN Lowe Music. That's my handle on Instagram. With that being said, let's dive right in.
If I'm going to play this in a slow swing style, here's going to be the number 1 tip I can give you. I'm going to work through this very, very slowly. Let me just get the notation up here so you can see that just a smidge bit better. There you go. Let me know if you guys can hear my piano okay. This is a live stream for anyone reviewing this or listening on the podcast, so just checking in with the live audience here. Okay. How does that sound to everyone? Let me know. And then I will get started with this. Everyone hear that okay? I guess the delay must be long. Okay, great. Perfect. Thanks, Noel. Awesome. So my first tip to you, when playing slow swing, harmonize the melody notes below the chords. Now this holds for ballads. So if I do something like this, or if I do something like this, I'm harmonizing the melody note on the chord. So I have this A natural on the downbeat of 1, so I'm going to harmonize that chord. Now, right after we do that, this is a really, really, really important tip. We really don't have to do much after that for the melody. So check it out. I can do this. So what did I do there? Like, what did I do there? I comped a chord. I'm going to put this in really slow motion. I comped a chord and harmonized the melody note. Now, this isn't a fancy voicing or anything. I have melody, bass note, and shells, and I'm adding the 5 in here. Okay? So I'm going comp, melody, and then into my next chord on the downbeat, right? So what I'm teaching you here is a really easy broken stride method. I really shouldn't even call it broken stride because your left hand's not having to move back and forth that much. It's really a 2-hand voicing comping strategy for slow swing piano, right? So if I count this off, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to comp here. Sorry. So I went further with this just to kind of demonstrate a little bit, but let's talk through this, right? Comp, melody, melody, comp. Right? So I'm hitting my next voicing on the downbeat for that F sharp diminished chord. Okay? Now, this is a whole note here as a melody. I can make some rhythmic comps. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but let's just move on. I'm going to comp my G minor. Now, I can follow the same process that I'm teaching you guys right now. Even though the melody note's on an upbeat, you can kind of change the rhythm here. It's okay to put that on the downbeat. Right? So I can go comp, but check it out. This might be a little bit difficult because if I use my pinky here on this D natural, I'm going to have to lift my whole hand to move up here and then play the rest of that melody. So I would have to do that pretty fast, which it's not that bad. So I'm going to comp, lift my hand, comp, and then again comp. So again, depending upon your voicing here, I'll talk about voicings in a second. Comping on the A, comp. So really what I'm trying to teach you isn't about notes. It's not about voicings. It's not really about rhythms. It's about the essential methodology, the secret to really easily playing a version, any version of a slow swing tune. Now, my definition of slow swing is really getting out of the ballad. So we're not playing this in a ballad format anymore. Here's ballad, 3, 4, 1. Right? We've moved into a new style of playing a tune, a slow swing tune. Now, the tempo here usually goes up to about 90, 100, and then we get into medium to fast, which changes our methodology a little bit. So again, I'm going to go through this one more time. This is something you guys can all use here today with very simple voicings. If I just really simplify the voicings, if you just want to use shells underneath your melody, you can do that. So I can go comp. Here's my 2 shells here, melody. Right? Comp with my shells here, shells and melody, right? G minor shells, bass. On my left hand, I just have bass notes. Shells. Shells. I can do shells up here, or I can do shells down here. You see that? For my A minor 7, 7 and 3, or 3 and 7. I like this a little bit better. I'll tell you why soon. So I'm comping and lifting. Now, the purpose behind this is that it adds space and rhythmic drive to the song. Like, space is good to propel the rhythm and swing of jazz. If I'm holding chords down all the time, it sounds more like a ballad. And that's why it's really a big secret to playing slow swing is you need space. You need short rhythmic comps, you need space. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can do some rhythms there, right? So that's really the first secret that I want to tell you. And to practice this, all you're going to do is make sure that you take your melody, you're going to harmonize your melody with your most basic voicing. Well, I shouldn't say most basic. Whatever's easiest for you, for the student, for you, right? You can make this as fancy as you want. I could add sharp 11s in here, 9s. I could totally schmooze this up or fancy this up, as fancy as I want it to be. Right? I can make thick voicings, but you don't need that. It just depends on what level you're at. So really, I'm trying to reach out to all levels right now and tell you that you can do this. It's very easy, right? Anyone have any questions on this? Please let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to move to some other principles here. I'm going to keep going, but if you do have questions, just put them in the chat there. So let's talk about the melody with your harmonization. So initially, I started off by saying that you harmonize on the melody notes that are right under the chord, so on the downbeats of 1. If you saw, I was changing that a little bit. So clearly on beat 1 here, I'm going to harmonize this with any voicing you want to use. Now, in this particular instance, I hit the upbeat of 4 here, and then I move to my chord. Now, I can choose to harmonize right on that melody if I want to, or play the melody and then play the chord. It's totally up to you. It doesn't make a difference, and sometimes I use this to my advantage depending upon what I need to hit. So I could go, because I have a little space to hit this C natural, right? I have a little space. I have a little space here to jump and land on that. I can, in that particular instance, harmonize that melody note with a full chord. Or I can just hit the melody and then play the chord on the downbeat of 1. Melody, chord. Right? Now, same thing here in measure 3 with the G minor. I can hit my G minor chord however you want to voice it. Again, you can just use shells. You can use rootless voicing, whatever you want. Shells sound great. I use shells all the time. I'd still use shells on this. Shells, and then I'm going to jump to my melody here. Right? So I'm hitting my shells first and then jumping to my melody. And then again, I don't know if you guys can see this too well. Let me pull this over just a little bit. This A natural is another upbeat here. Okay, and depending upon the chart you're looking at, you might see rhythms differ from chart to chart. I looked at a different chart than this one from the real book. It was from the Jazz Fake book, and every single melody note in the chart was a quarter note. So it just goes to show you how different rhythmically charts can be with melody notes, right? So this is actually quite good because it gives you some upbeats and things like that to use in your swing feel. But again, shells. Now again, I can harmonize this A natural with my C7, or I can play the melody note and then harmonize after. It's up to you, right? Now, as the melody gets higher, as I mentioned before, you want to try to cover bigger spreads on the piano. Okay, so as the melody gets higher, you want to cover bigger spreads on the piano because you need to balance out your voicing. If you have a teeny little voicing up here and you have a root down here, or a 1 and 7, believe it or not, this gap of this octave here, that's a pretty big gap, right? This is a pretty big gap to not have any notes in the middle. So you do want to try to create an equal balance all the way up the piano in your voicings. And that's why I'd probably put my shells down here. I don't necessarily need my 7 in here. I could just do my shells here and then add some extensions like that. Or I could do this, you know, but for a basic voicing, I could do this right here. So that's why I'm choosing to put my shells down here. So again, harmonizing, I could harmonize the upbeat here with a D minor 7. Now check it out. I'm going to go on. So this melody note here moving into this 2-5, right, is right on the downbeat now. So to make things a little bit interesting, I can play the melody alone, which I like to do. And since it's a whole note, I'm just going to go A natural into my B flat, which is on the G minor 7. And then I'm going to let my hand go. And I'm going to jump down here to comp the rest of the chords there in a fun, interesting pattern. So I'm going to go. Right? Because the whole note there that I see there, it's tied. We're not a horn player. We're not a sax player. We're not a trumpet player. We don't need to hold the note down. We can play the note, right? We're not a vocalist. We don't need to hold the lyric out, right? We're a pianist. And in playing solo piano, we have to do these things to make it sound good. So I'm going to go. Right? So I'm going to comp for myself in that space. Umberto says, the F sharp chord, it seems like a rootless voicing of a D7 flat 9 or a dominant 6 chord in the progression. Does that make sense? Umberto, so glad you brought that up. I'm going to go back to the beginning again and play through this first A section so you guys can hear what this sounds like again. And then I'm going to talk about that diminished chord as well because that will lead me into what I'm about to play. So get rid of this real quick. All right. So the F sharp diminished totally. This is a substitution for your 6 chord. All right, so anytime you see a 1 major 7 going to a sharp diminished, okay, this is just a substitution for a 1, 6, 2, 5. You can go 1, 6 dominant, 2 minor 7, 5, 7, or what's written in this case is 1 major 7, sharp 1 diminished into your 2. They're essentially the same chord. Check it out. If I play an F sharp diminished here, it's a full diminished chord, okay? And if I put a D in the bass, it now becomes a D7 flat 9 chord just by adding a different root. And this is a great example in jazz is why your roots, your bass notes are so important. Because if you play different bass note, it completely changes the sound of your voicing. This is a D7 flat 9. This is a diminished. And instead of this bass note motion here, you're going to hear this. Completely different sound, right? Well, to me at least. I mean, to the trained ear. And it does affect your ambiance or your atmosphere, your feeling of the tune. If your ears aren't really picking up what's going on, your feelings might change. Anyway, so here we go. I'm going to play through this. And I'm going to do exactly what I've just kind of taught you all to do, seeing if I can get in this bottom portion of the, probably not here. That's okay. We'll just do this. Okay. So again, I'm going to go slowly. I'm going to do this 3 times. I'm going to start very slow and then start to speed it up. I'll do super slow motion first so you guys can all see, and then I'll start to speed it up 3 times through. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, a little faster. A little faster. Right? And then I'm changing the texture now on the second time around. I just started changing the texture with a little bass note movement. Now check it out. My right hand didn't change. So what am I doing now? Okay, this is a different slow swing method that you can use to create a slow swing solo piano feeling. Secret number 2. Okay, I'm going to take exactly what I just did. Okay, I think one of the genius behind, not to toot my own horn, my teaching is I really like to teach you building blocks so that you don't have to change much to get to the next methodology. I promise I didn't have like 6 cups of coffee. I just get amped off of teaching, okay? Alan says, what chord are you using for the C7 and the turnaround? Alan, that's a great question. Does anyone know what this is here? Instead of the C7, I'm using a G flat to E to A flat, B flat, E flat, right? So this is a tritone of the C7. It's just an F sharp dominant 7, and I'm using a rootless voicing in my right hand. So I have F sharp, 7, 9, 3, 13, right? You'll notice the rootless structure voicings really easily if you look for that whole step in the middle or if you look for the half step in the middle, right? If the 7's on the bottom, you're going to get the whole step in the middle. If the 3rd's on the bottom, you're going to get the half step in the middle. Yeah, so it's a flat 5 tritone sub exactly. Okay. So what I'm doing here now is I'm taking exactly what we just played. Or right-hand voicings is what I'm talking about. And any rhythms or any types of things that you did here, we're going to leave that exactly the same. But now, instead of our left hand playing like 1s and 7s and octaves and roots, it's going to just play a bass line motion. And it can just play roots. All it has to do is play roots. So I can go, and I'm going to hold it. I'm going to hold my left hand down so that that bass motion rings out. You see how my right hand's lifting? Right? See that? My left hand holds. My left hand holds. Little bass note walking motion. Right? Down to the B flat to lead into the A minor. Now I'm still going to bring my right hand down to comp here because I have so much space. Why not? I'm going to take advantage of all this space. Now, by the way, if I'm using this voicing here, if I just put a C in my bass, it's going to be an altered chord. Right? So that makes it very, very easy to switch up too. So I can go altered, C7 altered right here. 3, flat 13, 7, sharp 9. Right? So if I use the tritone, voicing stays the same. It's the tritone. If I use the C7, this voicing here, same voicing, now becomes C altered, right? So check it out. Here we go. And again, you don't have, shells are great. Here's what shells sounds like. So I'm just going to use shells underneath my melody. Shells. Right? So we're already starting to create easy ways to play slow swing. Now don't get underwhelmed by me saying easy, because this is totally what I would use to play this. Now, granted, I'm going to add some more movements, some more reharms. I'm going to get to those in just a second. But at a basic standard level, this is exactly what I'm doing, okay? I'm going to fluff it up a little bit so you guys can hear what it might rise to, but I'm not going to add in any reharms. I'm just going to add in some comping rhythms, maybe some little motions, stab motions. If you guys have any questions about anything, let me know. That was a little too much. Sorry. Okay. So basically, as I didn't really do many reharms, but at the same time, the system and strategy stayed the same. And I really hope y'all believe you can do this, because you totally can. It just takes shells, a little harmonization, right? And a little movement, okay? And obviously, you need to know your chords a little bit. So let's talk about this next thing. And this isn't really one of the secrets, but essentially, you can add more comping rhythms in any space. So like for the diminished, or if you choose to use a D7 here, anytime your melody has a whole note, you want to take advantage of that area to comp, right? Especially when the melody gets down here into this lower end, right? Look at these whole notes here we have on the G minor. I told you about that. Okay, or the C minor, and this is why I went, I forget what I did. Something like that. So let me continue on to the bridge here. I'm just going to use the same system, and then I'm going to talk about some more advanced movements. Does anyone have any questions about what I've done here so far? Please let me know. I'm going to finish out the bridge here. So we have this F7 leading into our B flat. Now check out, there's so much melody here. I'm really not going to have time to do much of anything besides harmonize my melody notes. So I'll go super slow. Melody and shells. Harmony. 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 So on the A flat minor, I chose to play the melody first and then play my chord after. I could have just gone, I'm using big, thick chords now. Again, shells are perfectly fine for you to use here, right? You can just do this. And then comp, tritone, right? So for the bridge, when the melody is moving pretty consistently and fluidly, you don't have time to do much else besides just harmonize right on the chord. So again, one more time. F7, B flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, E minor, A7, D, A flat, D flat, G flat, G minor, C7, right? Now, that's a really easy way to start playing slow swing solo piano. It does take a little bit. Obviously, you got to practice your shells, or depending upon what voicing you're used to. Your left hand should always be playing either roots or 1s and 7s, 1s and 3s, 1s and 10s. Never full rootless, never full voicings though. Right? If you're trying to get to that next level, your left hand really should only have 1 and 7, 1 to 10, 1 and 7, 1 and 3, anything like this, 1 and 10, right? Your left hand should really have 3 notes max, and that's if you're going bass note in shells as well, right? That's it. It should really only have 2 to 3 notes max, okay? If you're playing full chords, this is a very beginner way to do it. You really got to get away from this because it'll help you sound better, okay? All right, and the final method before I get into some more advanced movements is going to be more of a broken stride method. I'll show you that. Yeah, let me show you on the bridge here. This particular way is going to be my left hand jumping around to chords a little bit more and shells. This is going to be the most difficult to do. This particular method leads into medium and fast style solo piano because my left hand's having to jump around more, okay? So here we go from the F7. You can't see this on the chart, but it's a measure before. So already right off the bat, I'm going F to shells. I'm jumping. I could jump to a full chord. Right? So my right hand didn't harmonize at all. So this is difficult in some ways and less difficult in others because I don't have to worry about harmonizations anymore under my right hand because my left hand's doing everything, okay? George, hey George, if you're playing above C3, is it cool to lay full left hand chords above C3? Typically, George, I know you do this, your left hand really should never play root position chords. So bottom line, your left hand really should never play root position chords in a full 4-note voicing like this. So the best thing you want to try to do is, again, 1 and 7 or bass note and shells. And your right hand, or just play a root. Just play a root and put your shells in your right hand under the melody. Right? So again, for the B flat major 7, here's my left hand. Here's my chord. Okay, your right hand should always have more harmonies for the most part than your left hand. Okay, for like beginner, intermediate, advanced, for pro level, there's situations where like I might have like a huge chord like this, but ultimately for like a lot of students, I'd say 99% of the students that I teach on here in jazz piano school, I've never really seen a student get to a level for the most part where I would have them do something like this, right? But for the most part, shells underneath the melody in your right hand. Your left hand should just have bass notes. You really want to think about your left hand as being a bass player, right? Bass players, think about a stringed bass. They don't play chords, right? So your left hand is really mimicking a double bass. Now, on the piano, we can get away with 2 notes, which is helpful for us, right? A bass player probably won't even play 1s and 7s. They're going to be walking bass, but we want to think about our left hand as being like a bass. And so we want it to be low, and we don't want it to have a lot of notes because it's going to muddy things up, right? We want our chords and our harmonies to be in our right hand. All right, so back to the broken stride here. Check it out. My melody is just going to do single note melody lines, but my left hand's jumping around a lot to shells and full voicing. So that entire section was single note melody until the end when I got some space for my right hand to comp, while my left hand was jumping around and kind of doing all sorts of stuff. Now, again, this is why I saved this for the last method. Okay, secret number 3 is this last method, broken stride, where your left hand's having to jump to shells, playing 1, 7, 3. I was playing some of this like this. Right? So G flat, 1, 7, 3. I'm kind of reaching. This is very technically taxing. Okay, this is why I don't recommend you to start out doing this, but if you're in a spot, some students are in a spot to try to tackle this, right? To tackle some of these voicings, moving back and forth between bass notes. Maybe your left hand's pretty competent and able to do this. Then go for it. But definitely don't start there. Okay, definitely don't start there. All right. Any questions on any of that? I'm going to move into more advanced reharms now and movements and tactics that you can use. Tritones, sus, different types of passing chords, things like that. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm going to grab some water. Thank you to our live audience who's here listening, engaging, asking questions. If you're viewing a replay, thank you for listening. If you want to join these live streams, and ask questions live, subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/jazz piano school. Or you can get on the email list and get the live stream links. Here we go. So, just like Umberto said, we can go down to a D7 here, which is a really, really common progression to get to our G minor 7. So just a 1, 6, 2, 5. This allows me to add in a really nice array of extensions over this D7. So I can go F major 7. I can go D altered. I can go D sus. I can go D sus into my altered. And then actually I can put the F sharp in as well. So I can go D sus, D altered, F sharp diminished into my minor. D sus, D altered, F sharp diminished into my G minor. That was all within that one measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Very advanced. I have 3 reharms essentially based on this one chord. So right into my G minor 7. So I'm fitting those 3 chords in, and then I'm continuing on. And now again on this A natural, I love that this is a 13. It's really good to get in a habit of kind of just marking notes under the chord in your brain as how they're acting with the chord, right? How is this A acting with the C7? It's the 13, right? It's not a chord tone of the chord. So what I like when I see that, this means, oh, I can probably change this chord a lot of different ways. So I can make this a C sus, which I love. So I can go from my G. I usually do that there. It's a really beautiful chord. G minor 7, C sus, and then I resolve it, right? Maybe to a sharp 11. So C sus, maybe to an altered. And then I can throw in a diminished. Right? So I kind of just took the same exact progression we used on the last, on measure 2, where we went D sus, D altered, F sharp diminished into my G minor. Now again, the reason I'm able to use a diminished chord into a minor is because this is just a standard reharm. Anytime you see a minor in a chart, you can use a diminished chord from a half step below to lead into your next minor chord. So on the A minor 7, I can use a diminished from a half step below. A flat diminished to get into my A minor 7 chord. I can use a D flat diminished to get into my D minor 7 chord, right? So D flat diminished. And if you keep your roots down low, it's going to sound much better. Right? Like this. Right? So here. And then resolution. And then again, I can use my diminished chord. So I'm going A flat diminished into my A minor, D flat diminished into my D minor. Right? Do you guys see those little passing movements to get into our minor chords? Okay, so again, just to review, F sharp major 7. So again, D sus, I have a couple movements here. I played D sus shells, and then I just added on the 9. So I went sharp 9, flat 9. That's what I did, I think. Well, I went into the kind of this this chord here, not really a diminished chord, but it was really like kind of a D7 with a 3rd in the bass, but it still works. I tweaked my neck. It's kind of bothering me for some reason. Okay, into my G minor 7, right? And then moving on. Sus. C7 flat 9, sharp 11. 1, 3, 7. I don't really need the 3 here. Let me raise this so you guys can see the MIDI, especially if you're watching the replay. All right, 1, 7 in my left hand. Again, still following my general principle rules. Flat 9, 3, sharp 11, melody. could add the 13 in here. That's a beautiful voicing. Flat 9, sharp 11, 13. A minor 7. Nice big spread. Okay? I love the big spreads. If you can't reach tenths, you can jump to them. Like with my left hand's going to go jump from bass note to shells. Bass note to shells. And then my right hand's going to sync with that. So melody and bass note can play together. And then I'm going to jump to the shells in my left hand. And then my right hand is going to fill with extensions and chord tones. So I'm going to play 11 and 5, 9, and I'll throw the 7 in there to make it a little bit thicker. Okay, so again, 11 and 5 played with my thumb, 7, 9, melody. Right, so I'm going. I'm hitting that chord and then going right into the melody. Again, melody, chord, right? I have my shells and I'm adding the 11 and the 5 again to thicken it up. I'm just going for textures here, guys. Really textures, thick, thin, you know, a lot of notes versus a little notes. The contrast really helps. Any questions? Any questions on anything? Please let me know. There's a ton of different reharms and things like that I can go over. I don't want to get that fancy, but those are some of the things I would start to use here. Let's talk about this little 2-5 here. It's always nice to see 2-5s that don't have much going on, because that allows us to start doing some fun things, right? On this G minor 7. One of the ways that students don't use tritones enough is moving from a chord into its own tritone. Everyone, when they learn a tritone, they think you need to substitute a chord. You need to substitute a chord, meaning you need to remove the chord and replace it with another chord. But the way that I love to use the tritone is actually a little bit different. I do use it that way, but it's so much more powerful when you use the tritone of the own chord you're on. So if you're on a G minor 7, I'm going to play the G minor 7, and then I'm going to move to a tritone of the G minor 7, okay, which is going to be a D flat 7 chord. This is going to bring me into a C7. And then I'm going to use the tritone of C7 to get me into the F. I'll do that again. So we're taking this 2 measure progression that only has 2 chords. We're adding 2 extra chords to it. So we have 4 chords. With this 4 chords, because we've added these 2 chords, we're creating more movement possibilities for our voicings that create a lot of beautiful motions and extensions and colors over those 2 new chords now. Right? So G minor 7. I'm playing rootless voicing in my right hand. I'm going to go to the tritone of G, D flat 7. There's my D flat rootless voicing. Now I'm going to go into my C7. And then I'm going to play the tritone of C7, F sharp or G flat, right? And harmonically speaking, however you want to view it. And then down into my F major 7, which would bring me back to the top of the tune. Okay, so again, 4 chords, 1 chord on beat 1, 1 chord on beat 3. And then again, 1 chord on beat 1, 1 chord on beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Beautiful, beautiful progression. Now I'm just playing half notes now, but obviously if I add some pop to it or some dotted quarters moving into eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and some anticipations, it's going to sound great. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, right? With a little bit of rhythm, it can really start to change things, okay? Umberto says, by that I mean going to D sus to D. Yes, exactly. You can do that because the melody is holding, right? So anytime you guys see whole notes in solo piano tunes, right? Whether that's a ballad, whether that's slow swing, whether that's medium fast swing, it doesn't matter. Those whole notes in the melody should be huge indicators to you, huge signs that you can do something and you should do something with that measure, right? Whether it's bringing your right hand down to comp some new movements, right? Or whatever. You can also do an improv line. So I might go, I might do that line over the G minor 7. Right? So I might fill with an improv line there as well. If you don't want to fill with comping, you can fill with improv. If your improv's not great, fill with chords or shells or comping. Just shells. Right? Simplicity is great. Umberto says, do you typically go chord to tritone or tritone to chord? Do you typically go chord to tritone or tritone to chord? I'm not quite sure what that means, Umberto. I'm assuming you're talking about the G minor to the C7. I mean, again, you could replace the G minor 7 with a D flat 7. So if that's what you mean by going from chord to tritone, I'm sorry, I'm not really sure exactly what you mean by that question. Just explain a little bit more, and I should be able to understand you. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up here a little bit. I don't want to go too far in depth. We've learned a lot, but I am going to talk about sus chords real quick before I just recap what we've learned, so you have a clear vision of what you guys can practice, what you can do. Again, go to jazzpianoschool.com if you're looking for some next steps. We do have a membership, live teaching programs available, and lots more information like this. I'm redoing the whole website. Lots of goodies, lots of updated website activities and courses. All right, so with my sus chord, what we're going to do is look for dominant chords. And there's two ways we can do this. So we can look for dominant chords. When I see a dominant chord, so for example, in the C7 here, I've already kind of talked about this, but I can make this a sus. So coming from a G minor 7, I'm going to put a sus here. So my sus sound, the only difference in my sus sound, does anyone know? I have a 4 here instead of a 3. I also have a 4 here. So I'm actually playing the 4 in both hands, right? But the difference between a sus and just a regular dominant is just the 4 and the 3. In a regular dominant, you have 1, 3, 5, 7. In a sus, you have 1, 4, 5, 7. Right? Suspended 4 is what that means. So I'm going to play a sus here. I don't have to resolve it, but I like to. So again, yep, George got it right. Again, now I resolve to my thirds here. You see that? So 4. Here are my 4s. They're tucked in. But again, my left hand's playing 1, 4. My right hand has a sus rootless voicing. And then I'm going to continue with my melody. And now I'm going to resolve to my thirds. They're my thirds, right? So I moved my 4s down to my thirds. This takes a lot of practice. I understand that. But again, understanding the reharm principles is the first step to really kind of making this happen. So great sound that I talked to you about. Umberto, I'll get back to your question in just a second. When you talked about adding the tritone to the original chord. Yes, I typically go chord to tritone or tritone. Or I typically go chord to tritone, not tritone to chord. So example, I'm just going to jump back to this, guys, real quick. I wouldn't want to go D flat minor to the G. The reason for this is because you want your bass motion in the 2, 5, 1 to go G. The half step above approach into your next chord is what really makes a great sound for this particular type of reharm or the tritone movement, right? If we went tritone to the G to the C, or no, tritone to the G, and then like this. You also don't want to go dominant to minor either. So going from your minor to your dominant to your dominant to another dominant is the way to go. So chord to tritone, I would recommend doing that. So that's one way to use your sus. Sus, resolution. The other way to use it, okay, which you don't really see, I'm going to go to a 2-5-1 for just 1 second here. If you're taking a 2-5-1, you can completely remove the 2 chord. To reharm a sus 2-5-1, again, what I showed you was going D minor 7 to G sus, right? Here's our G sus. The notation isn't reading it properly. Let me see. There we go. I had the 13 in there, so let me take out the 9, actually. There we go. right? So there's our G sus, and then I'm gonna resolve it to a G7. You see how I changed that one note and then the notation changes to the G7 and then to C major 7. Okay? So that's one way to do it. Minor, sus, resolution to the dominant. The other way to do it is remove your minor 7 chord completely from a 2-5-1. 2-5-1. We're going to take out our minor 7 chord. We're going to essentially replace excuse me. We're going to replace the minor 7 with a sus. So we have G7 sus for the first whole bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the other one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you guys see the difference there? How do you get some water? Thanks. So it's the difference in the rhythmic, the timing of your sus chord. So you can replace the whole minor chord with a sus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, right? Let's go back to the chart. So with that principle, with that tool in mind, remember, I'm always teaching you how to fish. I want to teach you how to fish so you can use these tools on your own. I don't want to just show you the notes. I don't want to give you the transcriptions. I know that's like an ice cream effect for students. Okay, it lights up the chemical part of our brain when we see these transcriptions where these voicings are being played and you can get that sound instantly by reading the transcription, but you don't know what's happening, right? It's like a drug. So you're not learning anything. You're just kind of copying and reading the notes on the piano. I don't want to do that for you. I want to teach you how to use these. So if you look at the third measure, you have a G minor 7 chord going to a C7. That's a 2-5. Right? It's exactly what I just talked about. So how would we reharm this to make it, to remove the G minor 7, what chord would we replace there, right? To reharm that measure. Give you guys 2 seconds. Think about it. You can type it in the chat if you want. 3, 2, 1. We're going to replace the G minor 7 with a C sus. So I'm going to play that whole measure as C sus. And then I can continue it into my A minor 7. So I've replaced that whole G minor 7 with a C sus. So now our tune sounds like this. D minor 7. Now I'm going to go directly to my C sus. I'm going to resolve it on that next measure. I can resolve it on the next measure, but here's my C sus. You hear the sus? Right into my A minor 7. Okay? So that's how we would do that. It's a beautiful way to get lots of gorgeous, gorgeous sounds. A lot of that was with the sus reharm on the 2. I didn't really have any minor chords in there. Again, G sus. Okay. So the C sus, right, is the 5 chord that we're going to. So a really easy way to understand this is just if you just take the C7, when you notice a 2-5 progression, the G minor 7 to the C is a 2-5 relationship, progressionally speaking. Here's what you're going to do. Take the root of that dominant chord and just make it a sus, a measure before, or the chord before. Very easy way. So if you see a C7, you can make the measure before. If it's a 2 chord, in this case it is, a G minor, you can make that a C7 sus. Right? So I can go C7 sus, resolution. Right? So if we look at the bridge here, and then I'll recap real quick. There's so many 2-5s in the bridge. It's one of the reasons this is a great learning tune, because there's so many ways you can do this. There's no minor 7 flat 5 chord. So if you're studying major harmony, this is a fantastic tune. There's lots of 2-5s to work on. Here's another 2-5. You got your C minor, moving to your F7. Right? So I see a 2-5 relationship. I want to reharm this. I want to replace my minor 7 with the sus chord. So the 5 chord that it's going to is an F7. So I'm going to take an F7 and I'm going to put a F7 sus a measure before. So now instead of my C minor, I'm going to have F7 sus moving to an F7 into my B flat major 7, right? So I have F7 sus. The root doesn't change, just the 4 to the 3 changes in the chord. 4 to the 3. Okay, down into the B flat. Let's look at more examples throughout all these 2-5-1s. This is a great teaching point here, right? So B flat major 7. Here's another 2-5. We have A flat minor 7 to D flat. If I wanted to reharm this, I would take out the A minor 7 and I'd replace it with a D flat sus, because it's D flat sus moving into a D flat and then into G flat. So it sounds like this. A sus. Right? A sus. Instead of the E minor 7, I'd put an A sus there, because the A sus is going to resolve into the A7 dominant. So I've completely taken out the E minor and replaced it with an A7 sus. And then I can keep going here. I can keep using this. D flat 7 sus. G minor 7 to C7. Here's my C7 sus. Into my C7. Right? So amazing, amazing sus principle. Okay. Let me recap for you guys. I'm going to wrap this up. If you have any questions, please let me know. Secret number 1, step number 1, method number 1. Use whatever voicing is comfortable for you. Okay? The lowest recommended voicing by me for a beginner, melody and shells in your right hand. That's the lowest recommended voicing that you should practice this with. Right? Melody, shells, and bass note. Your left hand has one note. That's the lowest recommended practice methodology for playing slow swing. Shells, right, in my right hand, bass note in my left hand. Shells. If you want to use more advanced voicings, go for it. Depending upon your level, you can still use this methodology with all sorts of advanced voicings. Right? That's a super advanced voicing there, but the method is still there. Secret number 1. So again, harmonize with your melody notes and just play the harmonizations with the chords as the melody aligns with them. Or again, you can take liberties. If the melody's on the upbeat of 4, you can put the chord on the downbeat, or you can simply just harmonize with the melody. It doesn't really matter. Okay? Secret number 2. Okay? Was the bass motion. Your right hand plays the exact same thing. So again, lowest recommended voicing is shells, bass note. Right? Creates a beautiful walking bass motion. All I'm doing is playing roots in my left hand. I'm just playing on the downbeats right now. That's it. I'm not walking bass. I'm just playing roots on the downbeats. Okay? If you're a little bit more competent at walking bass, you can totally do that here as well. That's fine. Depending upon what level you're at, you can make all these steps either more difficult or less difficult. That's the beauty of it. And secret number 3 is the broken stride. This is going to be most difficult. Now, a little secret with this, I still use my right hand when possible. So again, when we get down to this 2-5-1, I'm still going to use my right hand to help my left hand out when there is a whole note. So again, I'm still going to bring my right hand down here and comp something. I wouldn't go like this. I'm not going to let my left hand do the work if my right hand has the opportunity to help my left hand out. Okay? We also talked about the substitution for the F sharp diminished being a D7. Anytime you have a progression of a 1 moving into a sharp 1 diminished, that can be also a 1 going to a 6. They're the exact same thing. You can interchange those whenever you want. 1, 6 can be reharmed as a 1 sharp 1 diminished. Same exact thing. Okay, we talked about our sus, and we talked about using the diminished to move into our minor chords. So before we get into a G minor 7 here, we are using our F sharp diminish to move into our minor 7, right? We also talked about the sus, so G minor 7, C7 sus, C7 sharp 11. Or I can replace the G minor completely and go C sus, no G minor at all, C7 into my A minor 7, okay? So that is a lot, y'all. I know that, right? If you guys have any questions, please let me know. All of the things that I'm teaching here can be found inside of Jazz Piano School. All the concepts, right, in much more detail, much more depth, right, in the main course curriculum, in the solo piano system. Lots and lots of information, much more in depth inside of Jazz Piano School with materials, practice exercises, and videos that break down everything I'm doing as far as the reharms, the sus chords, things like that. So if you're a member and you want that, you can go look for them. If you need help finding them, just let me know. If you're not a member, then you can become a member and go to jazzpianoschool.com and find all this information in there. But I'll be doing more live streams coming up. So again, the best way to join the live streams is to get on the email list. I'm going to email out all the links there. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel and look for scheduled live streams under the live stream tab of the YouTube channel, right? You can see the future live streams that are coming up, and you can also view the past live streams as well, which is really, really fun to do. And again, go to jazzpianoschool.com. You can find all the podcasts there, which we repurpose the live streams on as well. So if you want to listen to it in the car, go to your podcast listening favorite platform, Apple, whatever. You can listen to the podcast in your car as well. Okay? That's it, y'all. Thanks so much for being here, and have a great day.
Well, if you enjoyed that video lesson, definitely go ahead and subscribe to the Jazz Piano School YouTube channel because we release a new lesson video just like the one you saw every single week. And we have other content educational series called Tips, Tricks, and Transcriptions that we release every single week as well. And don't forget to go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all of the other amazing free education available there. And if you're looking to take some next steps on your jazz piano journey, we do have a membership available, many courses, and even live teaching programs that allow you to work with myself and my staff of Jazz Piano School educators. My name is Brendan Lowe, creator and founder of Jazz Piano School. Thank you so much for watching, and happy practicing.